Welcome 3D students. In this video I'm going to show you how to merge different scene files in 3D Max, and this will be in preparation for importing all of our cemetery assets that we created over the last couple of weeks into Unreal as one Datasmith file so we can create a scene in Unreal. So let's get started. So I think the first thing we need to do is make sure that we have all of these things the right size for when they come into Unreal. So let's create a box. It doesn't matter what size right now. And we're going to make that box 172 units wide. Now that is the height of a 6-foot tall human being. So that means that this gravestone is a little too big. I'm going to scale that down and put it back on the ground. Now in 3D Max, the default units, even though they're unitless, are actually inches. So this is 6 feet, 172 inches. In Unreal, the default unit is centimeters, but it doesn't really matter for our purposes here. Another thing we need to do with these objects is put the pivot point down at the bottom. When they come into Unreal, it would be better if the pivot point was at the bottom because it would make it easier to snap it to the ground. And it would also make it easier to move around. So to do that, we're going to turn on the Snaps menu, which is right here, and then we're going to right-click on it to bring up the Snap settings. And we're going to uncheck any box that's checked, and we're going to check Vertex. That means anything that we move will snap to a vertex on a mesh. And then we can close this. And then we're going to come over here to the Command Panel, and we're going to click on the third tab over. It's the Hierarchy tab. And we're going to select Effect Pivot Only. And then we're going to move that pivot down until it snaps to a vertex. And then we're going to zoom in and see what vertex it snapped to. I want it to snap to a bottom vertex, so I'm going to make sure that that's where it is. And then I'm going to turn off Effect Pivot Only. And if it's correct, the Z position number here, when it's 0, it should sit right on the ground. And that's exactly what we want. Now let's merge another object into this scene and do the same thing. Let's go to File, Import, Merge. Now this can only be done with other 3D Max scene files. And in here, I've got another headstone here. So I'm going to click that one. And it'll bring up a list of the things that are in that scene. There's only one thing in that scene, Box 01. So I'm going to click OK. And it's going to tell me, hey, this box is named the same as our box you already have in your scene. So I'm going to auto-rename it. If there were multiple things in the scene that might need to be renamed, I would check that box. And I'm going to click Auto-Rename. And that's going to put it in the scene. Now let's move this one out of the way and turn off snapping. Zero out the Z position, and you can see that this one already has its pivot point at the bottom, so I don't need to do anything there. Is it too big? Well, it's not too big. I could easily scale it when I get it into Unreal if I wanted it to be smaller. I could also make it wider if I wanted to. And then let's go do another one. Go to File, Import, Merge. I'm going to select, it's the one I have. I'm going to select this one. Now this one has a bunch of different headstones in it. These are a lot of the ones that we already created. I had been keeping them all in one file. So I'm going to do this one to show you what happens when there's a lot of things in a scene. And you can see here that there's a lot of different things in this scene. Now I could select any number of them I want. I can click one and then hold down Control and click another one. I can select all of them by clicking All here. And that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to click OK. And it's going to bring up that same box for me. Since there's multiple things in here, I'm going to go ahead and click Apply to all duplicates and click Auto Rename. And then I'm going to move all of these things over and separate them. Now, this one and this one are the same, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that one. I don't need it. These two are different. This one is the same as the other one behind it, so I'm going to delete that one. Now these things can be a little smaller, so I'm going to go ahead and scale them down. And then I'm going to put the pivot point so that it's down on the ground. So let's go to Snaps, right click, make sure that vertex only vertex is selected. And then we'll go to Effect Pivot Only. Zoom in, and there's no vertex here in the middle of this edge to snap to. So I'm going to move all the way over here to a corner. And try to snap to one of these vertices down here. There we go. Turn off Effect Pivot Only. And we'll do the next one. Now see, that snapped weird because it still has snap to vertex on. So I'm going to turn that on and put that down on one of these corners just like I did the other one. Turn that off. Then I'm going to zero out the Z position. Do the same for this one. And then we'll do this one. Now the reason we're doing this again is because once we come into Unreal, it'll be so much easier for us to move these things around and position them on the ground if we've done this. And then zero it out so it's on the ground. So what I want you to do is to merge all your cemetery objects into one scene file in 3D Max. I want you to put the pivot point down on the bottom vertex, and I want you to line them all up just like this. Create a reference box like we did, 172 units tall, and then scale all these things so that they are the correct size. And when we come back in the next video, we'll do the next preparation, which is going to be creating a couple of materials for these, putting UVW mapping on them. And I'll see you then.